Alright, Flight Boss, bitch, you know, for sure. You're not listening to the Mind of Terry's Moon. I'm the Archangel Uriel, and I'm in the care of God duties and motherfucking responsibilities. And right now, what you're looking at right now is an astrological carpet right now. Now, for the most part, I'm going to explain to everybody how you got here before you came through this filtering system, aka these filtering of lights, aka this sun, this moon, this Jupiter, this Mercury. And before you got filtered here, you came from an actual star system. You came from a constellation. So you have got planet as a seed in this realm of reality, right, to start growing and act out the characteristics of the realm of reality as you, as a spirit or space, just traveled from through the astral realm. So I'm going to break this down right now. Now what you're looking at is this is a Vedic carpet right now. So, you know, when we talk about this system, the numbering system, 1 is going to start at Aquarius instead of Aries. But that's besides the fact. That don't necessarily mean anything right now. So before we actually get into this video, we need to break this down. Throughout the video, it's going to help you understand why degrees is so important, or decans. Because for the most part, look, this is you. This is the sun right here. So this is you. So when you came here and created your solar plexus here, you created this. But as a space, as a spirit, you came through a specific area and location of space yourself. So you may have been born in the Aries space. You may have been born in the Pisces space. You may have been born in the Scorpio space. Or you may travel as a spirit and came through the Libra space. So when you created your solar plexus, this is how you're going to be consciously aware of seeing everything that you see outside of yourself. Your sunlight, your light. When you look out, you see space. So if this you right here, all this surroundings is space. Your 360 surroundings when you're turning around and looking at the sky. Right? Alright. Now, for the most part, now, see, in Western astrology, it'll be called decans. In Eastern astrology, it'll be called the nakshatras. But they're the same thing. And what you need to understand is like talking about the houses, the space and the location, but a lot of times we get confused into calling the actual house the actual zodiac sign, the actual constellation that got formulated out of that house. So that's where a lot of the confusion comes from. But this is what you need to understand. Once you understand a decan or a nakshatra, that means it's a degree. Now a degree, each sign have in our ecliptic have 30 degrees. They have more, but this is how we calculate it based upon the space and how far we have came down. So in our 360, we calculate each space down to 12 pieces of the pie. Now each 12 pieces of the pie, we give each 30 degrees so we can understand what space and location we are in based upon how low we are on the turf that we are, the surface we are on at the moment. Now, for example, now, when we talk about, say, Scorpio, the Scorpio space, right? This is the Scorpio space. I don't know if y'all can see this, but this would be the 30 degrees of Scorpio. So when you break down 30 degrees, right, you got 10 plus 10 plus 10. That's 30. So the first 10 degrees will be the first decan, the first nakshatra. Then 10 through 20 will be the second nakshatra, the second decan. Then 20 through 30 will be the last decan, the last nakshatra. Now, why is this important for Scorpios? Because this will make each Scorpio different. Because each Scorpio may have came from a different star constellation. Now, when we talk about the Scorpio constellation, look, this will be the back stars. Now, y'all see out of our ecliptic, look at the circle, right, as our ecliptic. Now, the stars that's in the constellations outside of our ecliptic, this will be other beings, other bodies, other forms, other consciousness, other systems. You see what I'm saying? So, for the most part, now, this is why it's important to understand the 30 degrees and each decan, because each degree within a degree would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That completes one decan. That completes one nakshatra. Now, if you are born within 0 and 10 degrees of Scorpio, what happens is you're from the backdrop. You're from a specific constellation. Now, this constellation backdrop, there's a lot of constellations back there. You got Hercules, you got the serpents, you got Ophiuchus. And Ophiuchus, see, when we talk about these constellations, they expand beyond 30 degrees because they are their own, you know what I'm saying, their own ecliptics, their own beings, their own conscious levels, their own systems. So when we talk about, right, being born between 0 degrees and 10 degrees Scorpio, that backdrop of constellation, there's like constellations like Hydra, Boots, the higher octave the higher octave of the Libra constellation, when we start to talk about the scales. You know what I'm saying? I even think auras, A-U-R-I, or Orija, whatever that constellation is, I even, or that fixed star, it's up there somewhere also. You know what I'm saying? So this is why it's important, because if you was born, you could be born a 2-degree Scorpio and be completely different than a 3-degree Scorpio, because y'all are from a different constellation. So y'all got different ideas, but the way y'all play it out in this realm, y'all play it out in the same energetic signature, aka fixed water. That's Scorpio, being fixated on your own emotions and feelings. But the things that you're being fixated on your own emotions and feelings about will be the ideas of the constellation you actually came from. The constellation you actually died from, because you was born there, but you died from, right? And then as a spirit, as a space, you traveled to here and wanted to experience this space and location. So you start to create shit from the spirit that already did this before you, aka the solar system, the being we are in right now. So, you know what I'm saying? So when you talk about each constellations and things, like, all right, let's get to motherfucking this Scorpio. Let's go to Cancer. Cancer will be this space and location right here. This 30 degrees subconscious right here. This whole space right here. So going out to the farther outside of Cancer, where if you was born in Cancer, it's important to know the decan and the chakra and the degree, because you could be from a lot of constellations from here. So you know the backdrop right here, where Cancer, behind Cancer, you will see constellations like if I'm mistaken, like Canis Major. You know what I'm saying? Like the animal constellations and Ceres, the fixed star Ceres. Ceres will be one of these stars up here. You know, the great dog star, what taught us a lot of our communication down here and stuff like that. So if you're a Cancer, you got high possibilities from being from the constellation of Canis Major. And if you are actually the fixed star Ceres, then you have a lot of influence in our 3D realm of reality down here, with radio, or with your voice, or with communication in some way, shape, and form. You know what I'm saying? So you have to understand these things. Like right here would be the Aries space. So Aries space, you're dealing with a lot of constellations in the backdrop back there with Cetus, you know what I'm saying, the Great Fish, Cepheus, you know what I'm saying, motherfucking, I might got that wrong, Cassiopeia, that's one of the royal star families. Cassiopeia even expands all the way into Taurus. So Aries and Tauruses have possibilities to being from Cassiopeia. So Taurus and Aries, depending on the degree though, depending on the specific degree, you know what I'm saying? And if you are from Cassiopeia, then as an Aries or a Taurus, you share possibilities of being into your pride. You look at yourself as royalty. So anytime somebody try to embarrass you, you take that up to the most disagree more than anyone else. You see what I'm saying? So, you know, even getting to the Gemini space, getting back behind there, you got a lot of Hades constellation. You know, the end of Taurus, you got Hades there also. And even in Taurus, you got Aldebaran, the fixed star. You got the Pleiades, who's actually trying to create a new Earth for us right now. So they come into a lot of aspects that I ain't gonna get into right now in this video. But a lot of Pleiadians control this realm, because Earth actually rules Taurus. And the moon is exalted in Taurus. So this is where we get moon and get all that maneuvering, where the Pleiades can actually come down here and manifest their space and location in our space and location, as far as their womb or their movement or their memory. And so they attach themselves to your memory and things of that nature, to pleasantness and pleasure and prosperity. So we end up utilizing a lot of P words to overtake Earth. But y'all don't really know that's just Pleiadians trying to come over and make y'all praise them and shit like that. But I ain't gonna get into the Seven Sisters right now. See, I'm getting somewhere else. See, once I start astral traveling, I'll be going somewhere else. Like, this shit is freestyle to me. Like, I'm actually there in these places. You know what I'm saying? Talking about the Leo constellation, you got the Lesser Leo. Now, the Leo constellation right here is actually where this star we see come from. Right? Because it came, now if you want to know our astrological story, you need to look at this like a being. But it was a spiritual being before it started creating the shapes and forms, before it became an individual and started creating shapes and forms within itself, and a bigger being that was here before it. So you need to know our story of this realm that we are in right now, and it actually doesn't start in Aries. This is why when you hear every story about our creation, or our start, it always start with earth, or always start with the primordials of water, or always start with a balancing of something, or always start with something trying to come in and to relate to something else. So really, you know, our split in half, or our sector of whatever being came from another realm and then went through the drain and came into this realm, it kind of came through the space of Libra. But I'm not going to say Libra created this constant, our realm, because when we started creating, we ain't started creating the Libra constellation yet, but the actual spirit of the space that came here and started creating shit actually came through the energetic field of Libra. So they was trying to keep something in balance, or two perceptions of themselves in some type of way. So when they came here, they started formulating. So this, as all cells or stars or little small mechanisms, as a race, we was living the age of Virgo. So this is us living the Earth age. So as this spirit, it came and created the Earth. But the Earth is a feminine energy. So it was actually correlating it with feminine energy and starting to create a lot of masculine bodies from that feminine energy signature. So this is where we're going to start getting the masculine energies from. But for the most part, through this Virgo constellation, we started creating the turf and the shapes and forms of our mental ideas and concepts as Elohims or Els or whatever y'all want to call it when we came here. So as first, we started constructing this area. We started constructing the shape and form and started making it physical because we started giving it a lot of energy. We made a pact to go into the daughters of men, aka create a shape and form out of the primordial waters of the earth element. The earth element, not the shape and form that y'all call it earth, the earth element. And that's dealing with practicality, structure, foundation, caring, nurturing, curating something, and seeing the growth of something. So that's the energy signature of Virgo, period. Now that energy signature comes from the feminine energy. Water and earth comes from the feminine energy. So for the most part, that's why we call it daughters of men, as far as fourth and fifth and sixth dimensional beings, and us as real gods, as real Elohims, when we come to try to explain shit to people. Now for the most part, so this whole aspect, we created this. Now once we created, right, we created a sun, right, out of this. So we created a consciousness. We started being consciously aware of ourselves. So we created a solar plexus. But in the realm of reality of astrology, what's happening here is we created a sun, and that sun will be the first sun, but not sun how y'all looking at it. But y'all can look at it as masculine energy and being a real sun, how y'all Bible trying to look at it. But in so many ways, the Bible ain't even looking at it that way. They're looking at it in the way I'm explaining it. This sun was the first solar plexus, so that allows creation, fixated creation, that allow the imagination to sustain itself. So now we're in the age of Leo. We're starting to create this actual realm of reality based upon how we see ourselves, because we are the light. So you know what I'm saying, we started creating a whole Leo constellation and things of that nature. So you know, Jesus or whatever form come into that form, whoever got Leo energies in their chart are able to play out that Jesus energy signature, that Christ consciousness, or whatever the fuck y'all want to call it. But really it's just an energy signature of something being born from the Virgo constellation and actually being seen now, and now this realm of reality is starting to be created. Now we're going to get into the Cancer constellation. So this is the heart of it all. So this is when we start to create the heart. We started creating that plexus, not solar plexus, but that plexus, that chakra in general. These are chakras we're creating also. You need to understand that. So now once we leave the solar plexus, we start to create that plexus that created the heart and things of that nature. So this is why the heart, we ain't even getting to the mind and the brain yet. See, once we get to Aries, that's when we created the head and our mind to actually be consciously aware to see this realm of reality. But we had actually verbal communication before we had sight. And we're going to get to that also. See, when we talk about the head, this is why the sun is exalted in Aries. And also this is why, see, when a planet is exalted, it's not at home. Solar plexus is when the sun is at home. When a planet is exalted, that's where it always wants to be. So a lot of times you always want to be consciously aware of what's going on in your head all the time. But you have to be consciously aware of that first. And we created that aspect last. So in this realm, we did a lot of shit based upon intuition and psyche and resonation before we had eyesight and logic and left brain shit from. A lot of y'all guys be coming from that shit, like Yahweh and all that shit from the Aries constellation. But that shit is after the fact. And it'll teach you that Aries is first. So all your sciences make you think that Aries is first in some way, shape, or form. And then you wouldn't even get into thinking that Aries is first, so this makes them childish and a baby. But you fail to realize in the real world, if you experience that energy for yourself, you know the firstborn is actually older than all the other kids that was born after the fact. So if you was firstborn in your family, then 10 times out of 10, you older than all your motherfucking siblings. AKA you more wise. So don't even go by no theology as somebody trying to teach you some bullshit. Now for the most part, Getting into we started creating the heart space. Now getting into Gemini, we started creating the throat space and the throat area of the being that we are in. So we started to get to the first man aspect, the first man and woman aspect of how we perceive the things and things of that nature. This is why Gemini is even the first twins, the first male lithic kind of character in general as we leave from Virgo. Right? Now, for the most part, now once we leave from communicating, now we're communicating with the things that that we've been creating from our other plexus that we have been creating from our solar plexus coming from the Virgo constellation. Here's where you get the Taurus space. So now you're going to get the Taurus space, right? So now we're trying to formulate and conduct and make sense, Earth quality again, make sense out of the things that we have. And once we develop that consciousness, we actually can see what we have now. And that's where you got Aries right now. So now we're pushing forward with our consciousness. Now we're initiating and creating new ways of how to see the things that we have. This is what makes Aries cardinal. And then you get into the motherfucking Pisces. We try to relate that way and relate that to other people's ways, personal ways of seeing this reality that we are in. So this is what makes Pisces the collective conscious. Now we have an understanding and a knowing. That takes us into Aquarius. Now we can teach that and have some type of, and build that and have stability on that and build a foundation from what we know. That's when we get to Capricorn. Then we get to Sagittarius. Now we have moral systems around these things, meanings of reasonings. We have philosophies about these things. Once we get into Sagittarius, we get into Scorpio. Now we dive into depth to these things. We actually utilize these things as pleasures and desires, and some people end up getting finding out how it can lead them into destruction, and some lead them into prosperity. And then we get to understanding how to balance these things with Libra. And then we have a full 360 spectrum now on our 360 spectrum. Now we can balance these things out. So that's what makes Aries the first house, our first conscious awareness of being able to see. And then once you do a 180, once you do a 180 from Aries, you go right to Libra, and this teaches you how to balance everything from the whole circumference that you've been building from your solar plexus. So you know it goes a lot deep though. You know what I'm saying? But I can go even deeper than this. But you know, coming from the backdrop of the constellations that you are, that's how you be able to understand things and keep things in reference. You know what I'm saying? Even when we go back to the Capricorn, Aquarius constellation, Pisces constellation, you go to the backdrop of Aquarius, you're going to get things like Pegasus. You know what I'm saying? Pegasus and shit like that. Even when you talk about Pisces and shit like that, all the bird type constellations and the flying in the world. And then once we get into diving into those stories, I can start to tell you where you came from and why you have certain dreams that you have and certain ideas and imaginations and why they manifest in certain ways that they manifest in the things that they do in this realm of reality. But you know, that's just breaking shit down from just on a carpet type shit, you know what I'm saying? But it goes a lot deeper than that. So you know, before you got filtered through here, you came from another system that did what I just explained to you before you. So you come from a lot of different places. You might not be where your friends and family members and things is from. But now that you understand that, now you can start to set aside your differences and understand how to comply and apply your differences with others instead of just being disregarded and disgruntled. You know what I'm saying? Flight boss, bitch, goddamn air, you know, for sure.